Story 1. A good tip I got was that when visiting France, start every interaction or query to a stranger with bonjour. Otherwise, you're considered rude and abrupt. Don't just race into ordering your coffee. Say, bonjour, je voudrais un café. Story 2. Stay on the left in Australia. On escalators, when walking or running on shared paths in grocery aisles, and you better stay on the left when you're driving. Especially if you're a backpacker on a working holiday in North Queensland driving from your farm job back to the hostel. Story 3. If you are visiting Norway, you should ask people for help yourself and not expect people to ask, "Do you need any help?" if you look a bit lost. Here, it is viewed as rude to stick your nose into others' business, and we would rather mind our own. If you ask, though, we will gladly help you, but you need to reach out to someone yourself first. Story 4. Learn some train etiquette before you come, please. And please stop bowing with your hands in a prayer position in front of you. You've got the wrong Asian country. Japan. Story 5. I remember when I was visiting the September 11th memorial and there were some foreigners taking Instagram pose selfies near it with it in the background. Don't do this. Story 6. Wait in line. Don't call us English. 9 times out of 10, if we swear, it's not an insult. Please don't shout freedom at us. Otherwise, enjoy Bonnie Scotland. Story 7. United States here, and for some reason this needs to be said. Please stop defecating or urinating on public trails. I've seen this happen even on small local trails, but it's more common in high tourist areas like national parks. If you are far from any facilities, step away from the trail. Try your best to be out of sight and dig a hole if you're defecating. I was walking around a reservoir in a state park, and a foreign man, mere meters away from me on the trail, dropped his pants, squatted, and started pushing out a log. Don't be that guy. Story 8. In Canada, do not get out of the car and try to take pictures of the wildlife, especially if it's a moose or elk. They can be dangerous. Then we get stranded as the police investigate. Story 9. Please stop annoying the Royal Guards. They are not tourist attractions. They are soldiers. They will push past you if you are in the way, and the horses will bite or kick you for getting too close. Story 10. This is really more of a friendly Florida to specifically British tourists thing. Coming from a Brit that lives in Florida, you smell like really bad. Don't bring your can of Axe or your weak roll-on deodorant to Florida in the middle of summer. You're going to absolutely hum. Go to CVS Pharmacy, get the highest strength antiperspirant, and shower every single morning. Same with sunscreen. Don't think the SPF 12 that you buy every single time you visit Great Yarmouth is going to cut it. Get at least SPF 50 and reapply regularly. Story 11. America. Walk on the right side of the sidewalk and stand on the right side of the escalator. In general, be aware that you are taking up space and avoid stopping abruptly in a crowded walkway or right at the bottom or top of the escalator. This is especially important in cities. Use headphones if you are using your phone in public to make any noise. Yes, certain groups of Americans ignore that rule too, but many dislike it, and people may dislike you if you follow their lead. Importantly, do not criticize strangers from certain groups for disobeying the headphone rule. People not following that rule may be confrontational. If you bump into someone, say "excuse me," and say "please" and "thank you" when you speak to customer service or if you ask anything of anyone else. If people make small talk with you, reply kindly. They are being normal. Always let people get off the train or bus first before you board. Be mindful of people's personal space. Offer your seat to the elderly, pregnant women, and children. Story 12. If you come to Ireland, particularly the North, don't ask people if they are Catholic or Protestant. Don't ask people if they know anyone who was killed in the Troubles. Don't ask anyone if they were in the Irish Republican Army. Story 13. Brazil. 1. Don't assume women here are easy. Most aren't. Don't speak ill of our country or food. We are aware of everything that is bad here, but we are very sensitive about it, and we're doing our best to make you feel comfortable. Take a shower and brush your teeth. Especially people from some European countries have a bad reputation for smelling bad, and our noses are very sensitive to body odor. Be polite. Say "Bom dia," "Boa tarde," "Boa noite" when you first arrive somewhere or meet someone. and por favor and obrigado or obrigada. Don't speak Spanish assuming that's the language we speak. If you don't know any Portuguese but know Spanish, just say something like, I don't speak Portuguese. Is it okay if I speak Spanish? Story 14. United Kingdom. You have to say thank you to the bus driver. We mind our please and thank you with customer service. And if you push in the queue, stares of judgment will be upon you. Story 15. When visiting Austria, for future reference, stand on the right side of the escalator and leave the left lane empty for people in a rush. Also, don't do the funny voice or hand gesture. Story 16. United States. Keep moving when walking on sidewalks or in public shopping areas and walk single file, not 3 or 4 people abreast. If you need to gather to consult a phone, map, or figure something out, don't stop in the middle of foot traffic, but move to the side so other people can pass. If a bus or theater is pretty empty, don't pick a seat right next to anyone. Spread out. Story 17. Don't disrespect New Zealand's native forests and beaches by leaving your rubbish everywhere or being messy, especially in the forests. Take nothing but photos, leave nothing but footprints. Be a tidy Kiwi. Story 18. In the United States, you need to say excuse me and apologize if you absolutely must cut in front of someone or get too close to them, invading personal space. Personal space is important, so don't come here if you don't understand what that is. Story 19. Read the signs. I live and work in the tourist industry on the Danish west coast. Here's a few things. The nature here is very dangerous, so read the signs and understand that they apply to you as well. Don't feed the wildlife. Edit at word. Story 20. I hate when tourists come to the United States. I live close to a tourist trap and ask if they can see my gun. Just because I'm an American doesn't mean I have a gun. It means I have several of them. Be specific. My concealed carry? My hunting rifle? My hunting assault rifle? My hunting submachine gun? Be more specific. Story 21. Don't expect people to speak English. You are in another country and shouldn't be entitled. Learn some basic Spanish for greetings and thanking, and ask beforehand if they speak English instead of assuming they do. Story 22. People are Hawaiian by blood, not location. The majority of Hawaiians do not live in Hawaii. Living in Hawaii does not make you Hawaiian. A very important distinction. Story 23. My best friend comes from Winnipeg, and I've always lived in the Maritimes. We met while in our 20s and both have children who were quite young. They were playing, and I said something like, "Oh, you're being so goofy," to one of my kids. She told me that where she comes from, the term goof is terribly offensive. I had never heard that before in my life at that point. I've since watched some true crime shows and have heard the same thing about that word. It seems so silly that such a word would have bad connotations. Also, the word frig. Some people take it the same as fuck. So telling someone to frig off jokingly might be taken more seriously by some. Story 24. Ireland. If you have Irish heritage, say just that. Don't say, "I'm Irish too." You're not Irish. You're usually American. People in the United States will know what you mean when you say that, but the phrase doesn't travel. Don't refer to our towns and cities as quaint. It's patronizing. Ireland is not part of the United Kingdom. When ordering food or drinks, don't say, "I'll do a," or "give me a." Say, "Could I please have?" Manners cost nothing. Use your inside voices. Story 25. In Korea, you don't sit in the senior seating at all, or in the pregnant seats as a man, even if the train is full. It's okay on the bus in China, Japan, and other places. You'll get stared at daggers in Korea, though. Story 26. If you come to Albania, don't greet people with "Selamu alaikum," unless you want to get some weird looks. Only about half of the population identifies as Muslim, and of that half, only a minority actually practice. Just say hello in English, Italian, or even broken Albanian if you will, and don't assume people's beliefs. Personally, even if I know a person is a practicing Muslim, I just say hello in Albanian as "Assalamu alaikum" is Arabic, and it makes no sense to greet someone in a language neither of us actually speaks. Story 27. I am in the United States. Saluting anyone in public in the manner associated with Hitler, let alone the president in the White House, is extremely rude and disrespectful. If you are an immigrant and do this, you should be arrested and deported that very day. Story 28. In New York City, try not to be an obstacle. Yesterday, I was rushing to get on a train that was already at the station and ready to leave any second. I was trying to rush down the staircase, but it was crowded with people coming up, and this one woman going down was moving so slowly, blocking the entire side. It was as if she knew she was going to make the train and didn't think for a second about anyone behind her making it. She wasn't disabled or old or anything. She just had no sense of anybody else in the world. She was shocked when I found a small gap, went around her, and barely got on the train ahead of her. Story 29. Apparently, for Americans nowadays, throwing out your heart isn't a thing. Don't go around hailing Hitler in Germany. The discussions I've had about it on Reddit with absolute buffoons were crazy. Story 30. Not reading the terms and conditions of your booking and complaining about things not being included that are normally not included in my country. In my country, we charge per person, not per room. So don't be offended when the price doubles because 4 instead of 2 people arrive. And for some reason, I have to even explain this. Babies are actual humans. No, we cannot charge the dog fee instead of a person's fee for a baby. Also, the room will not be cleaned if you do not leave it before midday, because our staff has humane working hours and isn't on call in their time off. Just because you decide to leave at 3 p.m. does not mean we will recall our staff from their home to clean a single room. The audacity of some guests, generally non-European foreigners, sometimes have a really nasty attitude towards staff as lesser than, and it makes my blood boil how they treat me, the owner, differently than them. I'm not going to show them their place. We are not in the 1800s. Story 31. If you don't know the gang signs of the area, don't do any funny hand gestures when taking a selfie, and always ask the Uber driver if he knows the way and if it does not pass by any favelas. Those are more like how not to get killed than being rude in Brazil. Story 32. Whatever Chinese people are doing in airports is generally considered rude. For example, they can be a completely chaotic mess, opening bags on the floor and moving queues, letting their 20 friends skip the queue, blowing their nose into a rubbish bin using their fingers, bringing 20 bags when the limit was 2, or trying to walk back from the boarding tunnel to the waiting area after having their ticket scanned to talk to a friend who hadn't passed through yet. This was all experienced on one airport trip. What's surprising to me is that it's the polar opposite of how recently arrived Chinese people behave in the workplace in Australia. They're almost too respectful in an office. Story 33. If you're drinking, mate, do not move the straw and pass it back to the person who passed it to you. But the most important part is you do not move the straw. Story 34. California specific to hiking in our state and national parks. It is etiquette to yield to those hikers going uphill or those who have a limited view or are closer to the right cliff's edge. Many times, I have had to yield to men from other countries because men have the right of way over their women, who follow them from behind back home. I could not believe this, but it is a common concern with female hikers here. Story 35. Take your shoes off when entering our home. Don't insist on hugs or that kiss on the cheek when you first meet us. Even handshakes can be a bit much for some. Just a wave or a slight bow will do. Don't start eating immediately when the food arrives. Wait until everyone is ready. It's also nice to offer to serve the most important or oldest person first. And I know we get criticized for it because some people do it, but please keep your mouth closed when eating and don't slurp loudly. Story 36. You may be surprised to find that most Americans are shy to discuss politics with tourists. Most prefer to hear things about your country instead and will only want to talk about the positive things about the United States. This is especially true when we are traveling overseas. In the worst-case scenario, you will get into a huge argument, so it is best to avoid the topic altogether. I mean, this is good advice for anyone visiting another country. Story 37. United States. I have encountered too many groups who walk in a swarm and engulf everyone around them. I stopped at a small rest area on the highway, and a group of about 12 people walked into the small building as I was walking through the doors to leave. They all just crowded through the door as I was trying to leave. These were obviously foreign tourists. Story 38. UK. Don't talk about religion, politics, or finances with a new acquaintance. You can talk about work, not how much they're paid, sports, media, art, books, music, games, food, travel, or anything else. There are a lot of interesting things to discuss, but anything related to the person's beliefs or financial situation is off limits until you know the person well. That's probably why it's a British stereotype to talk about the weather, as politically, religiously, and financially neutral topics are preferred with new social contacts. Story 39. Do not use the first sentence of your introduction to announce you are an American. We do not care. In fact, we will likely instantly respect you less, and that is a hard spot to come back from. A very small percentage of us still say good day and crikey, and only in specific contexts that you will not understand. Anything outside of that is cringe, so just do not use them. Oh, and do not use shrimp and barbecue in the same sentence. Refer to the paragraph above for guidance. Story 40. In the United States, we have lots of space, so spread out. If there are many seats on the bus, don't sit next to us. If we're standing in line, don't stand on top of us. It's a big country, spread out,